Hello, hello. Welcome to the Eddie Conversation podcast. My name is Eddie Vigil, and I am your host. This is episode number 74, and
Wow.
joining me today in New York City, as
Yay.
it was it were,
Yeah.
is
Alia Azamat Ashkenazi.
great. All right.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me and a little bit of my dog probably in the frame right now. That's Phoebe. Yeah, okay. Lay down. Lay down.
As mentioned, I am currently in the New York City area. My first time here, and yeah, so it's lovely to be in your space. Thanks for having me over.
Of course, yeah. Yes, of course. Thanks for coming all the way here.
Just for the show,
Welcome,
just for
welcome. Yeah,
the
just for this, we flew you in. Hope you enjoyed your flight. And we
first class.
accommodated everything. Yes, of course. With your gear and the crew that is behind this camera right now.
Hmm.
Thanks for that. It's real
Yes.
VIP treatment. Yeah.
So jumping right in, we have a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Um, we are okay. You are a director in film. And what shall we, as a foundational kind of intro for the audience, people that are less familiar with you, what is there anything else we should add to that or experience under the belt, or how do we best describe?
Yeah, right
Uh,
on. I started as a journalist back in Moscow, Russia, where I went to school where I went to high school actually. In Since 12 years old, I was working and writing. I remember my first $100 that I received was for this article in a magazine that I wrote when I was 12, and then I received the money, and the editor was like, "I love this. Let's do more," and I got hooked. So since then, I've been writing and being a journalist and kind of like reporting on some stuff, doing some columns and little interviews here and there. And my world was the world based on fact. In that time, for a couple of years, for sure, I was more interested in other people's stories and stuff like this, stuff that journalism is good for.
mhm.
But at some point, I got exposed to theater, and I worked in theater based in my school, based on Moscow Performance Art School, and got hooked to dramaturgy and playwriting and Chekhov, of course. I was on stage myself, and then I got a chance to direct youth, like 13 to 17 actors, and that was my first exposure to directing. And my dog is making a cameo here because she really likes Sari. That's Phoebe, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, there's water. No, no, no. No. All right, she's
okay, she'll
gonna
figure it out.
settle. She'll figure it out. Yes, she's gonna operate camera at some point probably. I don't like the shot, right? Yeah, she's like very anxious now. Like, what's going on? No, we have to just ignore her. So yeah, so I was in that world in and around narrative, I would say. And I did a couple of documentaries and got into like this United Nations. They had an art festival in Moscow for a couple of years, and I got in, and then they invited me to write and direct it for them on a bigger level. And that was probably my first experience actually directing an event, which is very helpful when you do stuff in movies too, because you have to be very organized and write and know like the talent and know how to like go from one to another and how it all shapes up to like a concert kind of situation. And that was it. That was always exposed to stuff like this. But I think maybe only when I moved to America in 2014 and like went to film school, I started to think more about directing for film and directing narrative. Even though I went to film school as a screenwriter and a professional screenwriter, more established as a screenwriter, I would say, with like a couple of features sold or optioned, and writing professionally now for other people or for myself. Not for other people, maybe I should stop doing that and giving up my babies, but directing is how the writing and being in film school is was the first step to actually thinking about directing films. That's a
Great.
long
That's a
story.
lot. Okay, so we'll dig into some of it. I guess I'm curious to almost go back to the beginning of that story for just a tiny bit.
Sure.
You mentioned selling your first journalistic
A
article.
piece, yeah, it was a
You
piece.
sold a piece as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Can you tell us? I'm assuming you recall what it was. What was this first piece, and how did it come to like?
I think so. I was this at this event, and my dad is a professional athlete. He's a soccer player. So I was at this event, which was like almost like a charity soccer match, and I was attending just as a kid of my dad, who was participating and playing for one of the teams, and just happened so that I was like all by myself sitting there watching and listening to people's conversations and as the event was happening because like they had a little bit of like entertainment there before and after and in between. It was very friendly. It's not like a real soccer match, but for a bigger cause. I think they were helping like orphan kids, and I was just listening and eavesdropping really. And I was inspired at the end of the day when I came home by the people who attended it and how they were affected by soccer and by the game itself and how it like brings everyone together. And I just wrote like this think piece of my experience and like here and there it was almost like a slice of life kind of situation when you go to an event and like talk to other people like what do they think about this and that, and just general kind of like texture, like when you talk about like how to direct and directing some commercial stuff, like it's always like texture, b-roll and stuff. So it was the texture and b-roll as a journalist basically, just I had to
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on paper. So I put it all on paper and I read it out loud to like my grandmother and my dad, and they were like, oh, this is actually really good. And at that point I was kind of interning and being around that national newspaper, Russian national newspaper for teachers. And I just was thinking, okay, maybe I should show it to the editor. And I showed it to the editor, and it's like, you know what? We actually have like a space for like, 1,000 words in our like next, newspaper. And I'll take this. It's great. And I was like, wow, okay, well,
So
there we
you so
go.
you went down to the newspaper play, like you were there in person
Yeah.
and met the editor in person and handed this thing over
Yes,
to
I
them.
handed the thing and I walked away, of course, and let them like read it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's
okay.
not like they like, oh yeah, there's like a piece of paper with some text on it from a 12-year-old. Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna publish it. So yeah, I just left it there like on their table and say, hey, I was with this and that. Maybe it would be interesting. And that's the way I got to be like a social reporter. That was my thing actually. Like, and then I started going to the events like the sport or not sport and kind of reporting from the place. So it was always like, what kind of opinion can I offer? Like, I'm not an expert journalist, right? There's different genres to journalism, of course. Like there's interviews, there's reporting like this, there's like social stuff, there's like talk shows and like TV journalism. So for me it was always like people and stories and like kind of like being a fly on the wall and showing that. So kind of
I
same thing, I
mean,
guess.
yeah, I mean that is a specific skill. I mean, being able to regurgitate something that you've witnessed yourself and present it, communicate it in a way where people want to consume it. That is, I mean, that's it's commercial directing.
I
I'm just
guess so. Yeah, for
kidding.
sure. Commercials is it's a very important skill. But in narrative as well, I think as a director or even as a writer, you have to be able to like step away from yourself and your own ego and the way you see the world and actually give other people chances because, people want to connect and want to see themselves or have something that they can actually relate to on screen. So it's all on a bigger level, of course, but at the end of the day, we're looking for escape or like being seen.
100%. That's true. I bring it up all the time on the show. Yeah, no, being seen and being heard, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Part of the reason why we do that, or part of the reason people actually watch and so much content now, I think, too.
yeah. Okay, now I say maybe. All right, let's talk directing. Let's get into the meat of it, and we can always kind of bounce back to different moments in past and stuff
Mm-hmm.
if it
Right
comes
on.
up needs to. But For starters, let's describe let's describe for the people at home. Maybe your description of what, you know, people that aren't in film,
Yeah.
they know certain roles on
Right.
set. There's an actor, there's the actors that everybody sees.
Everybody knows, yes.
Yeah, and then who else? How does a movie? Okay, so what is a? And then there's a director. So what, from your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
in your experience, what does a director do?
I think the main thing, and for me, and I take it really seriously, and I know a lot of directors who wouldn't even think about that, but I think director is the person who creates the universe based on a script, hopefully a good script. But there's only so much you can put in the world and in the description and on the camera and how everything cuts together on the script. Usually the story has to be covered and the dialogue, obviously. But the director is the person who interprets that script into the world and makes a universe. So for me, it's knowing production design, it's knowing what people are wearing as costumes, what kind of music is playing on the background, what are the actors saying, and how do they behave in certain situations, how do they react to each other and or when they are alone. So when I read the script, either it's mine or not, I just take a step back and try to visualize and see and hear the people talking and see the story progressing. So it's basically like giving birth to a universe for me. And I know it might sound pretentious, but otherwise, why are you there? You know, like a lot of people think that directors are there for actors. I don't think it's true. Like it's the only thing that you do. Yes, you direct actors, and yes, you bring up the performances, and yes, you have to know what you're doing and how to direct specific actors, and like each one can be very different in the way you describe what you want, how clear you are with your vision, and how like maybe you have to be more gentle with some or more authoritative with the other. It's all part of the skill, but it's not the only skill, and it's not the only thing you actually do on set. Before you arrive on that set, before you have that privilege to actually shoot, you have to prepare so much and create that world already in your head, and actors are just part of a very big puzzle, you know. So that's what directors do. I think create worlds.
That's nicely said. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of how to jump into this because that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Creating a world, it's a lot of work. And I'm also thinking about how, like, what your preference is too, a little bit on maybe approach to, like, do you, like, even just like how writing is tied to directing, because you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that you have a writing background.
Mm-hmm.
When you direct, is there an expectation for yourself that you also need to have a hand on the wheel as a writer too? Or is that like the preference, or does either way, like, I don't know, just writing into directing, how does that flow for you?
I think, I mean, and I've been told that many times that if I if I'm workshopping a script that I would like to direct, I'm aggressively directing on page, just for my own sake and for my cinematographer's sake and for my producers and actors' sake. I would add my vision onto the page. Well, first couple of scripts that I actually sold were for other directors, and I was only a baby writer then, and with no directing aspirations. I'm talking 5, 6 years ago. And those scripts are very different, very bare. I would put stuff on, but then I would take it out, not to help another director, honestly. Give them my vision, and like they should interpret that. Like I gave them a good story already, but they should interpret and actually work. But the ones that I'm writing for myself, I actually put stuff like we move around the room, see this and this and that, and I will add editing cut points. I would add like pre-lap from this scene, or we hear, I would say we hear this and that, and in parentheticals I would say like some ambiguous lines. I would add how they do that, why they do that. Like some of my lines are very poetic, and I would say his heart breaks or ouch. sometimes like the action line is ouch.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's a little help that actors are actually looking for, you know, like they're like, instead of them coming with thousands of questions, when they read the script, hopefully they will have a good idea of like what they're going through and what the character is about. But I'll give you another example. Right now, I'm preparing a script that I'm gonna direct, but I didn't write, and it's an amazing experience because I actually get a chance to bounce my ideas with the actual writer who's gonna get a credit for writing that script, and I'm gonna direct and be an interpreter. I'm not even gonna try or do like co-writing or anything. I touched the script. I did my director's pass, but it's part of my job as a director, and the writer is the writer who came up with the idea, so they get the full credit. But it's a very collaborative process, of course, and it's just different of like from the role that I'm taking. If I'm directing an episode of TV, obviously the writers were there for the longer time and they created the universes, and in TV, writer is more important than a director.
Air quotes over here.
Yeah, more important. No, I shouldn't even quote that. It's more important, right? Because like you writing an entire show and director comes in
100%.
for one
Yeah.
episode, right? So it's different. It's different from what you like. What is the final goal? Do I want to write to direct myself? Do I want to write to give it to someone else? And do I want to just collaborate with the writer to make it better? You know, and so it's different. I think.
So on this specific latest project that you're talking about, where
Mm-hmm.
you had the opportunity to do like your I don't know why I'm air quoting here,
Yeah.
the director's pass
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the script.
Mm-hmm.
How how much time did you have with the writer? Oh, I guess this is kind of specific, but to work. Yeah, what does a director's pass look like in this sense? Like how many how in depth are you allowed to get with
It
the
depends on the writer and how rigid they are with their story and how like precious they are with the script. This particular one is an amazing storyteller who's an actor in his own right and producer too, and so he understands really well like what goes on into production and that writing cheaper or writing smarter and stuff like this. So I come from that perspective too. Like, how am I gonna shoot this scene? I'd rather have this scene and this and this and that because visually it will like repeat and stuff like this. And if the writer is receptive to that, it's the biggest gift you can get as a director. But sometimes I know from the stories that I've heard, when the writers are very precious with the stuff that they put on, and that is the time when producers come in with the money and they option your script and they buy your silence as a writer.
hmm
Like, if you have
yeah.
the script optioned, it's out of your hands. And the producers go to directors, go to actors, maybe do the pass on their own, and it's out of your hands because you got paid. Or it's a sold script, say like you went to production and the director keeps changing the script, you'll still get your credit, you'll still get your money, but it might be a very different script by the point it's in
Yeah,
production,
yeah, which
right?
is
So that's professional like industry stuff, right, that you have to like live with and be okay with and make peace with as a writer, as a professional screenwriter, which is the whole other thing to talk about, I think. But in this particular one, I think what we did, I read the script, I really liked it. I said yes because I was offered to direct it. The script came with an offer already, and I said yes, I like this. Let's talk about it. So we met with the writer and the actor who's attached already to the script, which is gonna be incredible because I'm very happy with that actor and I'm lucky to have
nice.
him. And so we discussed the script and I gave them my ideas. And like I thought maybe structure here and there and stuff, just like notes. As a writer myself, I was like, I gave a writer's notes, and also as a director, I gave director's notes. Like, I think like this should be here and there. And then the writer did a pass after that big brainstorm session together. And I read that and I was like, it's almost there. It's 80% there. Let me do a pass. So in my pass that I did, I've been sent like an FDX of the script that I could do in final draft. I just reshuffled a couple of scenes, and I think it made it even better. And if, happily, you know, I have to say that everyone agrees with that. And we just had another session when we went page by page, like dialogue line by dialogue line, agreed on the structure and clarifying a little stuff here and there. And I think it's now the writer will take it away and do those little tweaks that we just discussed from page to page. And that would be the script I think that we will go in and start table reading and casting for, even though I already have my cast in my mind. So hopefully I'll just gonna get them
Yeah,
and be
yeah,
done
yeah.
with it and
Yeah.
shoot, so it's kind of the collaboration like this. But I'm not gonna be one of the writers on the script because I don't care about that. I actually like the idea of directing someone else's material because it's a good exercise, I think.
Okay.
You wrote your own feature and directed it and produced it. How was that experience?
So I've done a couple of yes, feature number one, I
Yeah.
wrote myself,
Mm-hmm.
produced myself, directed myself, edited myself. One of those.
Yes, yes. Independent filmmaking 101. Yes.
And I came out of that with like I don't want to solo write anymore. There's too
I see.
much. There's too like I thrive in that collaborative
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
back and forth brainstorm
Right, right,
session
right, right, right.
environment. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing by myself, it can get overwhelming pretty
And
quickly.
how do you know what works or not, right? You need
Yeah.
that mirror.
Yeah, it's like I know, like for instance, I'll know something's not working,
Mm-hmm.
but I just need to bounce. We just gotta, let's just talk this thing
Right.
out, please.
Yes.
And okay,
Yes.
we got solutions, let's implement them. So I know there's other ways to go about that too, but I came out of that one thinking like I don't want to solo write anymore. So on feature number two, I found a co-writer,
Mm-hmm.
similar sensibilities on the humor side,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
it was lovely. I don't know, was that the question?
Yeah. So you co-wrote that, but you still directed it.
Yes.
How much were you hands on, the moment it was happening? Like you knew that you're gonna direct this now.
We knew. Okay, so for feature, we're talking about feature
Yeah.
number two.
The second one.
So feature number two, it's called Trauma Days.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I think maybe you told. So I don't know. I we just wrapped post on it,
Mm-hmm.
and yes,
Congratulations.
thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that one was a crazy scenario. Again, indie filmmaking 102. We'll
Yeah,
call this
right,
one.
right. We'll call that one.
Um, the the idea from the get-go was it was like a February. We're in February.
Mm-hmm.
We had dates to shoot in May,
Okay.
and we didn't have a story or a script.
But you had the dates.
So we had the dates.
Okay.
We had the dates. We had assembled a crew
Mm-hmm.
and a cast, or
Mm-hmm.
like the base, kind of like essentially like you were saying, like I have cast in mind. Let's get the story, and then
Yeah,
hopefully I
yeah.
can just cast those people. It'll be
Right,
easy.
right, right.
We can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was like, I need help writing the script, so I, tapped into my buddy, and we rushed. We did did the
First
so
draft,
so
second draft.
we knew that I was gonna be leaving Los Angeles to go to New Mexico to
Mm-hmm.
shoot this feature,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna be directing. So from even the beginning of the writing process, that was the
You
plan.
had that in your mind.
Hmm.
So it did ooze probably on a page here and there.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so essentially it's a little bit more involved than it's not too dissimilar from the process you had just described,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point when we got closer to production and I got busier with the production duties, my writer brain turned lesser amount, and I
Mm-hmm.
went more into director brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so then co-writer, his name is Bo Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
His he kind of the scales leaned a little bit on like, all right, now if there are any, it almost turned into the thing where it's like, all right, well, these are things that I think need to be tweaked and fixed.
Yeah.
Can you go and
And
make
do
these
that. Yes, yes,
adjustments?
yeah,
We need
yeah.
to change the opening monologue. It's not
Mm-hmm.
on theme. Now that we finished the movie, we got to adjust this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those notes were kind of coming back to him while I was
Right.
just doing all the
Other stuff
prep
you
and
have
yeah,
to do as a director
yeah.
because you build in the world.
But yeah, do you have experience? Have you experimented with co-writing?
Right on. Yes, of course. Well, the first script that I sold was a co-written script, and it was an incredible experience, and I'm very collaborative. So there was no like ego involved in that. But the writer, my co-writer, came to me, and he's not a writer. He's not a screenwriter or a writer of fiction. So he came up to me with an idea of like, what if I would really like to do a project on this, and that, right? And let's write a script on that. So first year we were writing it. I was writing the script. I was touching the
For the
final
first year,
draft.
listen
Huh?
to these timelines.
For the
Isn't,
yes, for
isn't that
the
wonderful?
first one, the first year, because it takes time, man, to
Yeah,
from first draft to actually selling. It's years and years, I would say. So I was writing, and then most of the time we would just meet or have a call, and on the pages that I would deliver, and even with that, I think we spent at least 4 months outlining because I'm a big believer in outlining, beat sheeting, and not actually writing
that's
pages.
the heavy lifting. That's
Yeah,
kind of
and
like all of it.
exactly. And once you know it, then the pages just should come to you, like it should never be a struggle. Big secret. You just like you have to almost be like dying to write. I think, at least in my process, like I edge and edge and edge until like I'm overflowing with material, and then I sit down and actually write. So we outlined, we came up with characters and all the important story beats that are like out of the window at this point, I think. Like a lot of stuff that we initially thought of is not even on the page anymore, and which is fine. And there's some scenes that were there from the day one and they're still intact on the sold script, which is incredible, I think, too, that you like have this like gems sometimes that you come up with right away, and then probably those are the ones that carry the movie, that carry like that story. Maybe that's why you actually wrote them for those specific scenes. And it's actually very interesting to know now that I've like read it after a year of not touching it since the cell. I read it just to see like what was up, like what did I actually write. And I was like, oh, I remember that scene. I remember talking in a cafe about that, and now it's still here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. So we wrote that for a year. I wrote that, and he contributed incredibly to the research of that. And then maybe like 2 years in, he was like, "Let me try the final draft thing. Let me learn that." Because he's like this. So wow, that was so weird,
Yes.
man.
Neck
But
pop
good for you. Like you probably feel better now.
feels good.
So he touched a couple of drafts himself, did some revisions, and then we would go back and forth, and then we decided both that to keep the tone and keep the voice, because I still have very specific voice when I write, even if I write for someone else. Like I allow myself a little bit of poetry in action lines, at least. And once he was touching it, it was sounding very different. Like a man was writing it, or like not me writing it, right? So I was
Sure.
like, let me keep the voice, and we'll discuss everything page by page. So it would be like the script would be back in my hands. So we wrote it that way, and that was our process. And in all the meetings with producers or with potential cast, we were all as a unit. So writing was whatever, however we wanted or approach it. But once you feeling really good about the script, and it gets optioned once, and it gets in someone else's hands, and it gets re-optioned and stuff like this, you basically become one. Like what the other wants and what the other is thinking about, and you kind of like answer for each other, and that is a
Yeah,
good collaboration, I think.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. So now that, okay, so again, you're a director.
Mm-hmm.
The script is completed, and we are getting ready to. It's now being greenlit, and you have the budget,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is in place. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm directing this thing that we've been working on as a writing or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So what? Okay, the question is going to be what production wise,
Mm-hmm.
what aspect gets you most excited? Uh,
I think the most exciting part for me is visual language. And I've been told that many times again, that I'm a writer, I'm a actor's writer, but cinematographer's director. And I could not agree more with that. I think it's very true to the way I approach films, is that I would go into the script and I would change the character, I would change their behaviors, things that they say, I would tailor the plot for them, for the actor, for the performer and the character. But once the script is done, I'm all full on the director and I'm catering to my DP. And or I need a cinematographer who would be enhancing my vision because I can see at that point, like you said, you switch from the writer's brain to the director's brain. I do that uh very like instantly. The moment I know that the script is good, I'm switching to director.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like how to shoot this, what is the visual theme, and what is the how do I shoot this particular scene to make everything that I tried as a writer stand out even more. With it's especially evident with Esther's Choice because it was my first film. I debuted in America, narrative, short film, kind of romance thriller. And I knew that I have to shoot it in 3 days because I produced it as well all by myself. And I had experience on sets when everything goes wrong as a script supervisor. So I knew how to write cheap and smart and everything. But as a director, you still want to get that production value and you still want to tell the story. So I was like, okay, what takes the longest time on set and what is the most wasteful thing to do on set? Takes, performances, adjustments, tweaks, wasting your time with actors,
Okay, okay.
basically. So I was like, how, as a director or as a producer who's putting their own money.
Sometimes it's wasting time with camera too, depending
Right,
on the shot.
right, true, true. So I was like, how do I say what I want to say or like try to show what I'm seeing in the cheapest, most efficient way. And I think in Esther's Choice, that's how the idea of repetitive shots came in to me. I was like, I will just not tweak the lights. I would not change the camera angle. Camera stays the same, but the actors do different things. And it's not even dialogue scenes. It's one actor, one actress, right? Emma Orlov from Esther's Choice, who was playing Esther. 80% of the script is on her, is her performance, and it's very effective, I think, too, because we see her in the same room with the same, with everything is the same, it's very familiar, but the way she behaves is different. So for me, just coming in and like whispering something to her and making a performance adjustment was the easiest thing because nothing else should have changed, right? And it goes through the whole script. Is like, oh, we've seen that overhead shot, oh, we've seen that the dolly push in, but she's different, and it told the story very very quickly, like by the end of the first day, I think I shot the 30% of my, like 40% of my movie was done because I shot those silent scenes,
Yeah.
and I was ready to move on to my performance scenes and like waste time there, but it was the way I approached that film. And I think now looking back in all of my projects and forward as well, um, that is my way of directing, is thinking about visuals and thinking how they enhance the story and not necessarily the dialogue scenes, but the world too, like picking up some prop and thinking like, how do I show the passage of time with this and that. So it's interpreting and trying to visualize that because it's a visual medium. It's not theater really, and it's not like a piece of of journalism, or it's not poetry or anything
Yeah,
else.
it's
It's
not
visual.
literature. Yeah.
So you have to take care of that. You have to know how to achieve that, but also know why you're doing that. I think that's where your team comes in. And when I'm very collaborative with my cinematographers, and I've been lucky so far to have people who not only like facilitate my vision, which is I bring a lot of definitive stuff and I know what I want in a lot of ways, but I still want that collaboration, and I want someone to like bring their A game and say like, what do you think? Like, what is your perspective? And
Yeah,
actually
It's
enhance
like
it.
Alia. I hear that you really want this. Here's some. I'm just gonna throw some other ideas
Yeah,
at you that I
exactly.
think would maybe
Yeah.
even elevate it further. Like,
And that's what you want
and
as a
you take it or
director.
you
Like,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
and take it or leave it, and like, oh, but this makes me think about this, and that, and bring your references. Like, let's work on that, and it all makes sense because you making some, you building the world, right? So you need a lot of workers to do that, and you need a lot of like people handling different construction sites of that world. That's how I see it.
Yeah. So where do you get your visual language inspirations from? Like,
Inspirations, I would say.
yeah. Well,
I don't. Where do you get them? Watching other movies? I'm not a film buff. I haven't
s-
seen anything.
I'm not a film buff either.
Mm.
I need to watch. I'm constantly telling people I need to watch more TV and
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
movies.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Because where are
because
you gonna steal from, right? Like, where what is the reference
yeah, where are you gonna get
from?
inspired?
Inspired by,
Where
inspired by. I think art for me the most inspiring thing is fine art, at least on compositional level. And like how do you, and also just like instinctual, a lot of stuff that I have to like read. I read like a couple of books retroactively after like
Ooh,
making Esther's Choice. Like I know all the performance books like Stanislavski and everything. I learned that while I was at school and stuff, so I know the legit stuff for sure. But some of like directing movies, so Sidney Lumet, I read it after I already directed Esther's Choice, or some stuff like, oh, if you want us to feel anxious, do a shaky camera. And those stuff is, for me, it's so instinctual and like so, and I probably, because I was on set so much as a script supervisor and seeing other directors or other DPs like achieving some stuff or failing to achieve a specific thing that was in the script, I was like, okay, that's how you learn that. I think that's how like it goes in your subconscious, and then you kind of pull it out. But composition, I think I really uh, base it or like remember stuff from fine art, classics. Like sometimes going to a
hmm,
museum is very inspiring for me, that I would think about stuff like camera, not movement so much, but compositions and light and like in the moods and stuff. And camera movement is just like, it's so basic. Just learn 12 or whatever, however many there are translations of the feeling that you want and what camera movement achieves it the best. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's so on the surface for me, but might be not very um
Cause,
not very classic, or like, you would, is there a book that says that like this is how you achieve this and this is how you do this,
yeah, it's
no?
like, oh, you want this shot? Well, we should like that's screaming. Like shoot that on a steady
Yeah.
versus a handheld
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
static versus a push-in versus getting some parallax on the side thingy
Exactly. Or
versus
it's like,
drone
or
versus like
choosing the lens. For me, I'm not a nerd. I'm not a camera nerd at all. But I want to know, and I want to know everything that is concerning the image that
okay.
I'm gonna like put in my film. So basic stuff I should know how to achieve. So I know some lenses, and I know like this lens is not gonna do what I'm trying to do. Like, don't give me a crispy image. I don't need a crispy image for that. What is it? Why is it so sterile and stuff like this? So I know that as a director, but not a lot of directors do. And they fall on their DPs. And sometimes DPs bring their very stylized look. It has nothing to do with the story. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, but it comes from you as a director, so you have to be confident in what you do, but also know what it is. Like, if there's an emergency and my DP cannot come on set, I'll shoot it. I know that I would be able to shoot some my stuff, but I just need that person to be there and have my back, and also like care about other stuff that I have to care about, the director. If I lose a production designer, I'll be okay designing my set, like, but, and as a director you have to do that. You have to know that, because it inspires everyone on set, because everyone feels like protected and like, oh, she
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
what
yeah.
she's doing. I better bring my A game on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've
I'm
probably been so many times on set as a script supervisor yourself, when like we see the director who's very weak and they have no idea what's happening around them, and it poisons the set.
well, because I mean, it's a tough balance.
Mm.
Because I mean, like you said, there's the certain circumstances where you're trying to add production value to your film, so you want to elevate it in ways, but you don't have the budget for the extra art hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you are taking it upon yourself to assist the art team with setting stuff up, or
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, yeah, like that. Like I really like that, but there are some directors that come from the background of soup super smallest indiest thing where you're forced to do
Mm-hmm.
everything. So then when they get on the bigger set, they're touching everything when they don't really need to, because
Yeah,
it's like, no,
true.
you delegate that and you communicate that to
That's
your
true.
team,
Mm-hmm.
and they should be handling it. And if stuff does fall through the cracks, you're there to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's yes,
There's a balance to it for sure. Yeah, I
it's
agree. I
yeah.
agree.
I was also thinking about, again, the visual, getting where you get visuals from. You mentioned you kind of off. Okay, you mentioned like art and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Like I know for me, I was thinking about reading,
Mm-hmm.
like it's nice because just fiction, just reading fiction
Very true.
books.
Very true.
Because when you're reading a book, you're being
The
hit with
imagination is
visuals all,
yes, is working. Yeah.
and the benefit there is like that the writers they're directing the visuals for you so specifically that
Mm-hmm.
you are
Mm-hmm.
seeing stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody's seeing something different.
Right.
So having some of those visions instill in there, that kind of helps with like it's less cheaty than watching a movie and taking a vision. Then
Exactly.
yeah,
And even like taking it just for stylistic reasons. I was like, oh, that was some cool shot. I want to make it in my movie. I have a list of shots that I would
oh
like
yeah,
to do,
sure.
but if they're not like enhancing my story, I would never
It's
use
got to
them,
be
you
pointful.
know? Right?
Yeah. I was thinking too. What was I thinking? Shucks, I'm losing it. The when okay, writing.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to writing again, really quick too, because the visions come during the writing process, or do you how do because you're writing to communicate a vision on the
Mm-hmm.
page,
Right.
but then once the director hat comes on, then it could
It's all there.
yeah.
So it's all there. I've already done that work as a writer. So when the director's hat comes on, I think at that point it. Let me think about this. So when I was writing Esther's Choice, I knew that I'm gonna direct it, and I directed it on page. And I wrote camera moves and like colors of the dress and pretty much everything, even like emotions and stuff. I wrote in bold, like defeated and isolation or jealousy and stuff like this, which is like, any book, any screenwriting book you read, it was like, nah, 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 don't do that, blah, blah, blah. No, forget about it. Do whatever you want, whatever makes it come alive. Because script already, just by formatting, is a very technical document.
Hmm.
Don't make it even more technical. Help yourself. It's fine, especially if you're directing it. I understand the being respectful when you actually bring into a big studio and it's gonna change 50 times. It's fine. Like don't even waste your time like trying to bring up your vision. Just collecting a check. Um, honestly, but I knew that I was directing it, so I wrote all those things. So at the point when I wrote my when I like wore my director's hat and it was time to actually make it happen and produce and direct, it was already there. So it is as if I've done my director's pass. Right, so
Yeah.
at that stage when you've done the director's pass and you know like where you're going, then you just break down the script scene by scene and you shot list. That is the thing that you do. I think for me and Guillermo, my DP, was that like my director's book was like 40 pages, his was like 20 pages for the look and visuals for like a
Shoo.
short film, you know
And
what I
then
mean?
do you storyboard too?
I don't storyboard. I think that's the thing that I should pick up as my next skill, is actually start drawing, because it's just when you try to communicate your vision. Now that I do commercial directing, it's a very helpful. One of the most helpful things for you to do as a beginning director, I think, is learn how to draw storyboards. And there's so many resources now. You can do it on your computer. There's like some programs or software that lets you do it less mediocre. I would say. I
Yeah,
cannot draw for the life of me. I'm so bad at
I
it.
can.
You can?
I
You should you should storyboard every
uh,
shot.
well, I practiced storyboarding on my last.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
directed a decent budgeted short film this
Mhm.
year,
Mhm.
and I was like, for this one, I feel like I should go through the authentic
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Like, let me
Yeah.
storyboard,
Mhm.
and then I didn't even story. I didn't get through the full script. I ran out of time, but
Mhm.
I posted to Instagram on a story. And it's like kind of like what I was working on. So I snuck some images of the
Yeah. Yeah.
storyboards,
Yeah.
and I had an animation friend reach out, and he was like, hey, when you're wanting to do some real storyboards next time, reach out to me.
Real storyboards? That's what they said?
So I was like, ouch. I was
Ouch!
really
I
proud of
would say
these,
ouch
but
in the script for that, for sure.
yeah.
But that's funny. I just like even stick figures. But you know that what I do now is like, especially for commercial projects, I would just find like again, there's so many resources, but I want to particularly plug Shot Deck by the it skips my mind now. His name, he's my pen pal. What? Larry? The guy who shot Joker.
I don't know his name.
So he came up with Shot Deck, which
Oh,
is
yes,
the
yes, yes.
incredible resource of shots of all kinds, and the most brilliant thing about it
Yeah,
is all the
it's
tags.
just a
So you can
library of
just like,
images,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a library of images, and but you can search so many by the mood, like lighting, the shot size,
Subject
woman, subject, like woman, man, black, black and white, negative space, and all that kind of stuff,
two
and like
shot, like all the yeah.
and they getting better and better with tagging a lot of classics and a lot of new films as well. So what I do now is I storyboard by shots from Shot Deck.
You,
I have my own library, of course.
it's almost like a mood pass too, because you
Exactly,
can get
exactly.
yeah.
So it's like it's composition, but also like what I'm trying to achieve vision wise. And I think it's even more helpful, especially when you're trying to sell your vision to people who would pay you money for that vision. For myself, I would just not storyboard. I would do like looks, like look references, and I would probably have a film or two that is very heavy reference for my film, and I'll be like, what was that thing that they achieved in that film? But not necessarily like I try not to watch it a couple of times or whatever, not really steal it, so not have it in my mind so much. I would like maybe choose a film that I watched like 6 years ago. And I'd be like, oh, remember the mood of that and the feeling of that. That's our reference. And I would tell my DP, they would watch it once and be like, oh, I get what you say. And then we go from there ourselves. Because the last thing I want to do is someone be like, oh, that's like that shot from that. Like, I was like, no, 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 no,
Mhm,
please, no.
mhm.
And how you achieve that? You're not watching it too much. You're not like studying it too much. Don't study someone else's things. Be yourself.
Great
Let's wait
advice.
for that siren,
No,
the
it's
typical New
fine. It's
York
fine.
thing.
I do want to transition out of visual camera stuff, and if I may,
Yes, of course.
um, and talk a little bit about process with cast.
Okay.
Because this is again, we're trying to avoid wasting too much time on set with experimenting with performance. We
True.
don't, right? As you were saying. So let's go to the beginning of the process, which let's call casting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you as a director, how do you like to cast? What's your approach, and how do you develop your approach? Like, what is your
I'm very specific so far, and with projects that I've been given or doing myself, I have more or less control. And I try to get it into my deals and make my reps be like, yeah, but she has the final say on stuff like this. And I'm not doing like big studio films when you have no control. At this point, I'm ready to sell out any day. Just want to say that out loud.
sure, sure,
I'll do a
please.
studio film. I will say yes to everything. It's fine. So at this point, I'm very particular with stuff that I do as a director and in casting, particularly. When I write, I already have my cast in my mind, and it's very helpful. And I would already do a cast board when I write, and I would like put it either print it out or put it on my iPad while I write, and I would glance now and then at those people and their faces and write for them and hear their voices. Um, so for at least protagonist, antagonist, usually when I write, I already have them in mind, and everyone else is just like, oh, that type, this person type, and then I reach out to them, and if they say no, we would go for someone else, and I would
Yeah.
find someone else.
So I guess I know because I know the story for Esther's Choice
Mm-hmm.
on how that cast came to
Yeah.
be. Is that and those are people that you were familiar with and you had met in person prior. You had never worked with them in that capacity
Right.
before, if I'm,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but you knew them and you'd been on set with them,
Yes.
and you had a previous rapport to leverage.
Kind of. I mean, like Emma, I came on this feature film she was leading as a consulting script supervisor. It was just a very heavy scene, and my producer friend just asked me to like be another set of eyes. And I just remember her from like what I was 7 years ago. I saw her on screen, and I was like, wow, she has incredible screen presence. I would love to work with her one day. So I stalked her on Facebook. I added her on Facebook, on Instagram, and for
Facebook.
years, like we've never. I don't think I even like talked to her when I saw her. I just remembered her. Like if
Yeah.
I see a face once, I
Huh.
will remember that face. Especially a face like Emma's. Like so, like she's so brilliant. I cannot like stop praising her because she deserves all the praise in the world. And then like out of nowhere, I'm starting to write this script that I wrote for my DP, who asked me like write something I want to shoot for you, and I was like, yeah, you got it. And I was writing that, and I had Emma in my mind when I was writing that. Francois' character, the second lead, I didn't really have Francois in my mind. I had like a list of like five maybe actors to approach, and Francois was one of them. So it just happened so that I learned that someone's looking for a script supervisor on this short film, which he's leading, and I was like, that might be a good audition for him. And I made sure that I made it to that short film set, and I was script supervising it. He had no idea. For 3 days, I just watched him work with another director, and I really liked what I saw. And I was like, at the wrap, and we didn't even chat too much, so there was no like rapport, more like professional. And but you as a script supervisor, I think like you just like with cast all the time anyway, so there is some friendliness involved for sure. So when I said to him like I might have a script for you, would you mind looking at it? Of course he approached it as not like some stranger of like some writer or like aspiring director coming. He was like the person who he knew for like 3 days. So he read it, and we started talking about it, and like he really liked the idea, and I think he liked the character, so we started developing it. And now of course I went back to the script and shaped it entirely for him. That's how he contributed as a creative producer too. Like he had some
Okay.
ideas, and I was
Yeah.
really open to that. And again, like I said, I'm a writer, like actor's writer, so I have no ego involved with that. And if they have ideas, I really cherish that too. And I like that when the actors bring their ideas
Yeah.
for characters, because they would be more authentic playing my script. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like only helpful.
Yeah. Do you think about that a lot with your team when, I don't want to feed you an answer
Mm.
here, but when you are directing, how much are you considering what the people around you are getting out of the project? Like
Mm-hmm.
with the actors, for instance, that's the best way to. I mean, that works on everybody. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, I want you to want to work on this piece. If this makes the character more exciting for you and it
Mm-hmm.
works in my story, and I like it too, then let's do that because it's exciting for you, it's exciting for me,
Exactly.
and it's a win-win across the
You want
board.
to do that. I
Okay.
think you actively should look for opportunities to make it sweet for other people, not just you.
Yeah.
Because like then at the end of the day, it's gonna the vibes are gonna be good. You know, vibes are important. You know, everyone's like, oh, I really want this for my reel, or I really like my production designer. She was still in school studying theater production design when she was production designing Esther's Choice. For her, it was her first big thing on her portfolio, and it brought her a lot of work after that. So she was excited. And don't underestimate the vibe and the when it gets hectic and when you're trying to make your day, that friendliness and that excitement is gonna save you and take you out of a deep water. That everyone's coming together, especially on an independent set, you know, everyone should, like, you're not there for the rate. Let's face it, right? You're not there making money. So you have to, I always try to make sure that everyone on my team is getting something out of it more than money, and then it elevates the project. I think I fully believe that it does ooze into the frame, like how the crew and their work 100% gets into the frame. You can feel that. It's not just actors, it's just everything, little details,
Yeah, yeah.
like the way the camera is operating, you know what I mean? Like more energy and stuff like this. I can see, I pick up on that. I don't know if other people do, but I see that.
I
And
think
I
it's a subconscious thing.
maybe, yeah.
I feel like people do
Mm-hmm.
though, because I mean, I agree 100% with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, like I do think about the actors. Usually, I have the lead in my mind, and then I approach them, or with writing and writing to direct. Most of the time, I gotta tell you, I have the actor relationship already. Actors is the most inspiring thing for me as a writer. If I know an actor or actress and they're big, right? They're celebrity or whatever, they're good established actors. They're friends at some point or like pals. And I would rather write script for them than write the script on my personal idea, whatever the premise that I came up with for no one that I know. And that's how my project seems to be happening, is that like, oh, I had the muse, I wrote the script for her, she's gonna star in it, she's gonna bring money to it because they want to star in it and they want to be the lead in the script. So it kind of works all in collaboration rather than me really forcing the issue and like writing like a sci-fi $30 million film
Well,
and
that's
be
already
like,
that's
whoa,
already a tough
how
sell.
about I get like Liam Neeson to do this, who I have no connection with, nothing to do with, you know? So it's like being like a little smarter than the average writer, I
So
would say.
what about okay, the couple things as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Again, jumping to actor perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing you and I'm like, okay, well, how do I get on your radar at all?
Right.
I want to get cast, and if
Right.
directors are just tapping into people they know,
Yeah.
how do you know like how like I don't know, it's
I
uh,
get a lot of actors through Instagram, honestly. Or like Soho House, but that is very like privileged thing to do. Like when you
Soho
expose,
House?
yeah, like I just hang out at Soho House a lot in New York, and there's like a lot of actors. Like it's like the exclusive membership club, whatever, all over the world. And
Uh-huh.
LA has one. LA has a bunch actually. Like there's West Hollywood Soho House. There's like a more pool kind of vibes, and so I go to Soho House a lot, and there's like a lot of actors who hang out there. So if they're
Do,
cool and nice, I would meet them there.
and do you present yourself as, hey, I'm a director hanging out,
No,
everybody?
no, no, no. I wish I could do that. I wish I would have confidence to do that. But no, it's just usually
You're
just
just
being,
chilling.
yeah, just chilling, be nice. And if it happens naturally, you can talk to them. If not, it's fine. And they like, I love actors with all my heart. And they like, I want to always hug them and be like comforting and stuff because they're so fragile usually. And like, so like, there's a lot of ego involved and
It's
stuff.
hard.
And yeah, 100%. I would never be able to do that. Like, and I still fight that to this day with people from like my community and from my hometown or like from my country, like saying like, "Oh, but you're like pretty. Why don't you be an actress?" I was like, I want to shatter that man, usually a man, I want to shatter their face and be like, "No." I'm a director.
You
Though, like
know,
I fight my looks too, but it's like I can only imagine what it is like dealing with all these rejections. I deal with a lot of rejections as a director, but they're doing it on a daily basis. I have enormous respect for them. But to answer your question, to for maybe to actors who are watching it or just in general, in my case, Instagram is 100% how I cast. Like I just did this commercial campaign and I really blasted it to my Instagram like, "Hey, I'm looking for this this and that." And my DMs blew up. And I was exposed to so many new actresses for this one. This was particularly was a all female cast, and I was so happy to like meet all these people. But if I wouldn't put it on Instagram, I would have to go from friend to friend and be like, "Hey, what about this? What about that? Do you have anyone? Blah blah blah." I just don't do that anymore. I have a platform and like I have some followers, so I can do that, and that's how I get exposed. And I'm always open to meet new people, always open to collaborate on stuff like this, especially when they just like starting out and stuff. I'm workshopping some stuff. I'm doing like some safe space things that I don't want to show like to even to my manager, to like anyone remotely in Hollywood. I don't want to show that because I'm just working on it, right? And actors are the people who understand that, and they will be like, yeah, like they're gentle too. They're gentle back at you. I find that's why I'm like so inspired, and I have a lot of actor friends. you know.
yeah, they're great with words of affirmation
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Because they
yeah.
want them too, so
Yeah.
they give you
Yeah,
some to receive
yeah,
it back.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense as to how how you and I connected in the first place at all too. I
Yeah.
think we connected
Wasn't
through
it Instagram too?
Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah. Everything
yeah.
happens on
Instagram,
Instagram.
Facebook. I don't know, one of
Yeah,
those because
probably.
we're on different coasts.
Mhm.
So, but
Mhm.
no. Okay, that's okay. That makes sense. That's essentially how I cast as well.
Right? Yeah.
Um, I I I am as we climb the ranks.
Mhm.
Like I don't know what experience you have with working with like a casting director. If
Mhm.
you've gone through that process
Not yet.
before,
I haven't.
like that kind of scares me.
Mhm.
I'm like, what? Like, who are you not showing me? Why are you
Right.
choosing who to like? How like you have to trust the team that you bring on
You
board,
do.
but that's
You
kind of
do.
like it's kind of like a weird thing. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's like I like the how, gauging the vibes on my own and doing that whole thing too.
True, but also like there's a different side of coin there. Who am I not seeing? Who am I not knowing? Why like maybe I'm too much in my own bubble, you know? Like
There's that too.
when you
Yeah.
have that those all those actors you're friends with, not only as far as you can go with shooting with your friends, you know, however like famous they are, or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? But there are some incredible actors who you don't even know.
Yeah.
That's where the casting director comes in, I think,
You're
because they're
paying
just
for
so
another
yeah.
bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's casting.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to gauge our time here. We're flying by. Um, is there anything that, as far as the process, it's like you mentioned, how much do you push for as a director? Like, I know it comes down to budgetary levels or even like the passion stuff too, like rehearsals, rehearsal time,
Yeah.
because that's kind of that's that's where we have our opportunity to experiment and try things
Right.
and waste our time there, which is
Mm-hmm.
not wasted because we're planning for it. But what's your take on working with actors and pre and then like is it yeah, I don't know, and then
I'm all
production.
for figuring it out in pre-production and not doing anything during production. With my commercials or with my narrative work, I tend to arrive on set so over prepared that it's so like on the back of my mind, and I don't even need to look like at my iPad
Yeah,
or my
yeah.
notes and stuff. Like I would look here and there at my storyboards just to see editorially if I need to make a decision.
Maybe your sides.
Yeah, maybe my sides. I'll look at that, but I over prepare, and that saved me a bunch on set. So and it goes into working with actors too. I prefer the actors who do rehearsals, and that might I might be biased a bit because my initial exposure to directing was theater directing, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
everything you do in theater is rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. So by the time you're on stage, you don't even like you don't figure it out. You don't have a privilege of figuring it out. Like maybe you get notes after like first run or like and the dress and stuff like this from the director. But after you premiere, it is basically just you
That's the
know a
show,
little
yeah.
adjusting here and there, and that's it. So I do tend to fall back to that kind of timeline, rehearsing for a couple of weeks, putting it on feet, and all that theater, shenanigans that you
Mhm.
do. But sometimes you work with actors that don't want to do rehearsals, or they feel insecure about that because they never had theater training. And Emma, for example, is a theater trained actress, and we spoke the same language. And she came to that set that I had access to on Officer's Choice, and we rehearsed a bunch, even though there was like stuff that she was doing with her face only. There was no dialogue, and like a lot of scenes are no dialogue of her living in the space. So I gave her that time to actually be familiarized with that space. And but I didn't do it too much because actually in the script that she was supposed to like learn the space on her own because she just moved in. So I didn't want her to be like
Right,
at
right.
home and if that. So like I had to stop it at some point. But it helped because we were not wasting time on set because she's been there,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
even like for the last couple of rehearsal, like for the last rehearsal day, like she came in and Guillermo came in and my DP, so he was able to audition for himself. He was able to rehearse too because on the day we weren't even discussing stuff. We just looked at at each other. And like one look would be like, oh, I get what you mean. Like we didn't even talk. Like
Yeah.
we didn't discuss stuff. You know how like DPs and directors sometimes like, have a blocking and have the first run with actors and the crew sees that, and then they decide how they're gonna cover the scene. Like, who do you think you are? Like, why are you doing this? Like, it's so disrespectful for the crew. I like by the time I arrive on that set, I know how I'm shooting it. I know like what my lens is for that particular shot. I know editorially where I'm gonna be for this
Yeah,
particular
yeah.
line, and it saves time. And it not only saves time, it also like I think how you should approach this is things like this, because if things go wrong, you have that foundation of the ideal thing that you prepped for. But when things go wrong, you think about um, solving that particular issue. Like you have 15 minutes and sun goes down, for example, right? The classic thing.
Always.
Like you look back at your plan that you were supposed to be there 2 hours ago and shoot this scene in 6 shots. So you look at that plan and see like what is the most important thing for me. Like I would look at my if I am in that dire situation, I would look back at my director's book and have like there's like a column for what is the scene is trying to accomplish emotionally and story wise. So I look at those two words. I would usually have like one adjective or like one verb for that scene when I break it down in pre-pro, and I'd be like, what is from this shots that I have to all kill and have only one shot that my ID says to me like we can only shoot it in one shot. For example, it's theoretical. I'm usually never in
Mm,
this situations,
yeah,
thank God,
it happens
but
though.
theoretically, right? I would look at like what am I trying to accomplish?
Because I mean, it's in indie filmmaking, prep is sometimes a luxury. Because like when I know I'm thinking about, of course, like even this last short that I shot, um, we had a $50,000 budget and 4 days to shoot, and we had our extensive prep shot list down, but we were shooting in a different state. We didn't have access to the locations ahead of time. We hadn't even seen a couple locations before. So it's like, all right, we have 3 hours in this location. We have two, let's say we have like two location moves today. We have 3 hours here. We've never seen this space before. We have our shot list, so we know what we're trying to accomplish at least. We need her to walk from point A to point B, and this has to happen. This has to happen. Okay, but do we want to shoot it upstairs or downstairs or? And that's when the block light shoot fundamentals come in. It's like, all right, we need to communicate to the team. We can't just light and then be like, well, where's she moving? So it's like, yeah. But ideally, you do all that in prep. Yeah.
Like I said before, like I constantly fight my look. A 5'3" kind of petite girl with like curls and cute and whatever was sometimes more soft spoken and less Russian and like less with a Russian accent or very friendly. Sometimes I need to like bring like my Eastern European up or like my Asian in and be like more anal about stuff and be like more this is what I want, this is like what I need, and people do not believe that I would be able to like run a 50 people set. I've done this before. I'm sorry. Like I know how to do this. Or I've been exposed to many sets where I've seen that in action and I can emulate that. So just give me a chance. And it's really hard to like now that I do commercials more and more, like I started doing it in COVID. When you do that, you actually like pitch your idea to agencies or to client, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would love you. You would kill it in the first meeting, or they would love your treatment. They would love your vision. But then at the end of the day, you lose it to a white guy who has maybe two more videos on their reel or is friends with the agency. It,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
this is the life that I'm living right now. Is that like trying constantly to prove yourself more than anyone else who is not a woman or who is like was not born into that or was not given this privilege of like contacts or whatever, or a perception of a film director. Like if you think film director, who do you have in mind?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you actually, think of like a small girl who's gonna like direct big celebrities? No. So it's always like trying to fight that perception and then kind not stigma, but like the stereotype of a male director in a hat pointing, and it's not you. I don't fit that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yet I have skills.
No, for sure. It's yeah, you explained it well. Is the what's the word? It's changing. I don't even know how to go. People have certain expectation, like you said, of what they expect to see in a certain position. I
Hmm.
mean, we were, I don't know, not to make this about me.
That's what I had the problem with when they were asking that the initial questions, like what is it like to be female filmmaker? For me, the irking thing was not the what is the underlying question behind is like of course they're trying to like bring up the subject and make it better and be progressive and like talk about stuff like this, which is fine. I applaud the journalists for asking that question, but I don't like what it is like to be a female filmmaker. Why having female is so important? What is it like being filmmaker while being a woman, for example, would be a better question for me, because I would still be considered a filmmaker. I think we have a problem with with our perception of what director is or what filmmaker is, and we just need to add more women into that. And it would be like, what is it being a doctor? You can imagine a woman doctor, right? So when someone asks me, hopefully in 10 years, what is it like being a filmmaker, woman would appear in that person's mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just need more women.
Is are how often do you have director friends?
Yeah, I do. Not many, but do I do.
I know it's something I've been trying harder. Like I've been trying more so to surround myself with other
Mm-hmm.
directors that are also pushing, and it's like it's we go through stuff
Mm-hmm.
that no other position is really. It's like, all right, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do this thing.
Yeah.
How did you like? Because you're. I was just gonna ask about other women directors. Like I don't if I don't know if people come to you, like other women come out of the woodwork on Instagram and like, oh my gosh, Aaliyah, like how like I want to be I want to direct, and I'm experiencing some similar stuff
Mm-hmm.
too. I mean, there's really I don't know. I don't know.
I get a lot. Unfortunately, there's like what I'm hearing is now from producer friends is that they would hire a female director, but sometimes they drop a ball. So when they're not prepared to do that, and when they just a quota hire instead of someone who has some experience, so would be good. Um, they hire just a woman who's like a niece of someone, usually, or a daughter.
To direct?
Yeah, they hire that person just because they're a woman. I hate when they hire just because they're a woman. I think they should hire by talent, but just be exposed to more talented women. Um, so they drop the ball, and then that agency or that client would never work with a woman anymore. So now we're at that
Oh
point when, like,
no.
now as a female filmmaker who has a reel, actually, who has representation, now I'm at the point when I'm ready for that bigger project because a woman before me really didn't deliver. I have to fight that perception as well.
Yeah, so it's not okay. So when an opportunity is given,
Yeah.
it's
Sometimes.
it's even more weight is being put on you. It's like, oh, now you're representing all women filmmakers.
Exactly.
Let's see what the
Well, it
women
became a
got.
thing. It became a thing. It's too much of a
Oh
thing
no.
now. So, but to answer your question is like when some aspiring filmmakers, and I get a lot, I mentor a lot of young aspiring female filmmakers. And number one thing that I tell them, get on set, not in the director's position. And I would tell them would say that to a man as well. Just be a script supervisor, for example. Just like be around set, be on set, be in a very authoritative position, like script supervisor, a position with responsibility. You need to know everything about
Script
filmmaking and the script
supervisor,
supervisor. Yes.
authoritative.
Yeah, should
I'm
be.
just
It should
no.
be. You deliver bad news, you should be gentle, of course. Most of the time you do deliver bad news. So there's a lot of politics involved in that and gentleness to that. But still, like you have to be confident in what you're saying, right? You have to know your shit. So just do that. Watch other directors work, fail, make the breakthroughs, get that experience. That's the film school that they pay you for, and go from there. Don't direct your, don't put all your money in your first short film because it's gonna be a waste.
Yeah.
When you just, oh, I want to be director, like when you have that thought, or like when you're out of film school and be like, yeah, I'm a director now, I'm gonna direct now, and you go and direct, you're gonna fail. You're 100% gonna fail. Just go see other people fail and learn from that.
Yeah,
So
and then when you do
delay,
when
delay.
you do make stuff,
Yeah,
make it for free. Like the stuff you said, like you don't want to you're not going to show anybody
yeah,
this
yeah,
work, but
yeah.
like get some reps in that position with
Right,
friends that want
right,
to be practicing stuff too.
right. When the stakes are low and stuff like this, yeah. But don't take it too seriously, of course.
It's great advice. Okay, all right.
Wait, don't direct right away. Wait, learn stuff before you direct. Unfortunately, I have to say
Unfortunately,
that. I hate that I have to say that, but there's so many mediocre directors who have no idea what they're doing. It's
yeah,
too much.
yeah. Tired of working for mediocre directors.
Right, right.
Okay, quick things. Let's jump quickly to quickly. I hate that word. Let's
You
jump.
said it 5 times already.
Let's jump to New York
Yeah.
versus Los Angeles.
Okay.
Why are you in New York City and not Los Angeles, California? Let's say with like that's where where all the magic's happening.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you say that. That's in your opinion. Like,
No, I don't know. I don't. I this okay. Yeah, but you have a stronger opinion than
I
I
have
do.
a very strong opinion about LA. I think LA sucks. I hate LA. I hate the people. I'm sorry to say that, but I cannot stand it. Cannot stand the people. The weather is nice. The traffic is terrible, and there's no public transportation. Unfortunately, I would not survive there. I don't drive. I mean, like if someone's dying, I'll drive them to the hospital. I know I'm capable of driving a vehicle, but I don't have a license, and I don't plan to really because I'm a New Yorker. I walk. I take the bus. I take the subway and stuff. I don't care
So
for
can you
driving.
describe the LA people? Like, what is it?
Shallow, artificial, fake. I give you an example. So my bullshit meter goes like this anytime I'm in LA or talk to LA people. Why? Because especially as a creative, everything in LA is fantastic, brilliant, genius, groundbreaking, and let's collab soon. All the
Okay.
stuff that I hear. And
Uh-huh.
I know that my work is good. I know it gets good reviews from normal people like Blacklist or like professional readers and stuff when we talk about the screenplay or a film, Esther's Choice, for example, right? Or something that I'm trying to get from the ground and actually like sell or work on. All the LA people say, this is amazing. I've never, like, such fresh voice and stuff like this. They never call you back. Or like they call you and they like just say bullshit words, very exaggerated stuff. New York and East Coast people, they would probably not say it's fantastic. They would say this is really solid or this is really good. I love this or stuff like
Or
this.
it's not very good.
Or maybe I haven't heard that yet, but yes, for sure. They say like they will give you honest feedback. And if they really like it, they will call you back and they will make it happen. So they will probably just play it down with all the adjectives, but if they mean something, they mean it. You can rely on New York people. You cannot rely on LA people. And I kid you not, every time there's a production that happens with a LA producer or like with a director, especially LA DP, especially LA director, but LA DPs
Here in
in New
okay,
York,
uh-huh.
hacks. I have to say it, hacks, like absolute mediocrity. Like who
Shucks.
tries to shoot stuff in New York and get our New York production value on their LA buck and like on their LA vibe of like fake and like I feel very strongly about it. I'm sorry, but this is unacceptable. Maybe my bar is really high with New York because you have to be really good to survive in New York.
Mhm.
Like our unions are very strong. Like best crew in the world is probably New York crew, and that's why we have more productions at each given day for the past couple of years. We have like 10 more productions on each day than LA and then
Really?
Atlanta. So like
LA,
for now we're shooting 80 shows right at this moment. 80 shows are shooting right now this minute, and there will be like 60 shows in LA right now as well. So we shoot more. And not because it's New York, New York. We also have tri-state area. Obviously, we have New Jersey, which is close by. They opening like studios and stuff, but it's still like very accessible. And in order to make it in New York, you have to be really good skill set wise, right? To make it in LA, I don't think you have to be really good because because for a producer, everyone is in the industry. So you don't have to be really good to get a grip. Like the grip doesn't have to be really good to actually get a job because there's so many productions and the producers don't really care because they can have someone from the street to do that. And they have no problem with doing that. They have no problem with like getting some film school student like shooting their feature film. You know what I mean? So more people get opportunities in LA based on nothing. When in New York, the life is so tough and you have to be really good because the competition is incredible. And everyone in LA is very lax. So I think it actually adds to the production work ethic and value of stuff that we put out, the New York crews and New York people, and we're perfectly fine being here. I think we don't need to be in LA because there's a lot of work and a lot of money, and if you're good, you're gonna be fine. You don't need to go to LA and prove something to someone. You know what I mean? I feel very strongly about it. You can hear
That was
that.
great. That's
You can see
great.
that too. And for writers, they used pre-COVID, they used to say like for actors and writers, you have to be in LA. I've heard that so many times that I even considered like being bi-coastal at some point before COVID. Is like, yeah,
For your writing
all the
pursuit.
writers' rooms are in LA. You have to be in LA. You have to be in the know. You have to like have lunches and stuff like this. COVID, well, if one good thing came out of that is Zooms. Like all the auditions now for actors, I'm sure there's like all Zooms, all self tapes. You just submit. You can be whenever you want. Like for actual shooting, you probably could go to LA and stuff.
Or for like
For
callbacks or whatever.
Exactly, for the callbacks. But like initially, you don't have to be there. You don't have to sit on the stool with the 15 other people who look exactly like you, like, and go through all this humiliation, right? Which is a good thing. And same thing for writers. Like you can be anywhere. Like I know so many writers who moved out of LA and now have happy lives writing on the show still through Zoom. They don't have to be there. And New York has a lot of rooms too now. Just saying.
Really? Okay. So are you saying,
Yeah.
Eddie, like let's say me
Mm-hmm.
taking stock of where I am currently.
Yes.
I've been in Los Angeles for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going on 4 years. I've been script supervising non-union. I haven't broken into union yet.
Mm-hmm.
I blame splitting my time between self-producing, directing,
Right,
and
right, right. Of
all that kind of
course.
stuff. Like that takes away from
Of course.
days on set.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I'm non-union script soup, and I'm also okay. I've got three micro-budgeted indie features under my belt narratively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm like, okay, well let's figure out in order to take the next level up, are my opportunities best leveraged in Los Angeles, or it's like, Eddie, what, just move to New York,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more opportunity here to be around that next caliber of people. Like
It
what's
depends on what you want to do. And you want to direct. What do you want to
yeah,
do? You want to direct.
directing. Yeah, we have very similar life dream paths, but
What kind of projects do you want to direct? Like it depends. Like if you want to direct TV, probably you should stay in LA. You should probably be in LA
okay.
because a lot of shows shoot in LA or Atlanta. Move to Atlanta. There's a lot of
And
shows shooting in Atlanta. You
okay,
need the Atlanta reps.
okay, what do you want to be directing?
I want to direct movies for
Okay,
sure,
so
but
this
at
is
first, for money, I'll direct TV. But there's enough TV for me to direct in New York
okay.
at this point in my career when I have representation, when I don't have to knock on doors, right? So I get into the room through my reps, and then my work talks for myself, and then I represent myself, of course, like a saying, like talking about the vision or like pitching stuff, some stuff. I'm a little further in my career in that regard, is that I don't it's not really about where I'm at. It's like what I do and what I bring to the table, and they will just fly me over whatever
Yeah.
whenever I need to be, right? So you don't have to, like, now I don't really have to be in New York even. I just like it, and like this is the best city in the world for me. In my opinion, I think it's very objective as well. So I just chose New York. It's a choice, right? But if I would be you, I would probably still stay in LA because 4 years is not enough. And you just said like they took away from yours, even just building like union, for example, hours and days on set as a script supervisor. In LA, it's not enough because you've been doing your stuff, which is I applaud you for. Good for you. You should do that. Like you go for it and don't wait because you're a script supervisor. If there's people who are like, why don't I make my first micro budget feature film? No, no, no. You should script supervise first, or you should shoot
Hmm.
some stuff first and then do that. You did simultaneously, and I believe whatever project you put out is much better than anyone else's who is just a director, or just a producer, or just a DP. I
It's
fully
true.
believe
It's
that.
true.
It is, and it is true. I'm sure it's true. So I would stay in
Okay.
LA
All
and
right.
continue building on that whatever you already set. Like if you would be
Right.
in LA
Right.
for a year and be like, "Oh, I'm done with this depressive city," it's fine. But you're there for 4 years, might as well just like double down on it.
Yeah, but I do agree, Al. I mean, I feel like I've done a good job of like you said, your bullshit meter in
Oh,
LA just goes off the
mhm,
charts
mhm.
for like every interaction.
Every interaction.
I've done a good job of like sifting through. Like
Mhm.
that meter is important to have.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough people, but yeah, you can find good people
I
there.
know
But
like a lot of happy East Coasters in LA, but they only stay surrounded by other East Coasters.
okay.
Like so they bring the toughness and the like the no bullshit approach
And then they
to
stick
LA.
together,
And they
yeah.
stay in good weather. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess the only other thing I wanted to touch on, because we're pretty much out of time.
Okay.
We can talk
We
much
can talk
longer,
forever for
but
sure.
but time is a thing.
Mhm.
I just wanted to congratulate you on your citizenship and reaching
Thank
U.S.
you.
citizenship.
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Thank you,
that.
thank you, thank you. Happy to pledge allegiance to the best country in the world. I really mean it. I have this immigrant experience, and of course, it was a journey on its own. I came here 8 years ago as a student on a scholarship. Then I had to prove my extraordinary ability for the artistic visa or whatever. That was the thing on its own, and getting a green card, and now getting a citizenship after COVID, and waiting and dreading. It's like feeling like a second class citizen all the way through my stay here. Just because, that's how immigration works in America and how everything else is tied up to it. But now I feel at home. I've always felt at home here, and
Right.
and this only highlights that, and it's kind of like good kind of end to this chapter and moving on to other, being able to leave the country and travel
Yeah.
on the good passport and stuff like this for sure. And like I feel very westernized, always was, and I'm happy that I found my place. So I'm very grateful to finally be a citizen too, because it actually means something to me. I was not born into it. I was not given that. I actually earned that, and I cherish that every day.
That's amazing. And that I'm sure, I don't know, is there because yeah, like that process sounds kind of like it must be freeing. Is it free? Like a weight off the shoulders
It
of like, okay, like I
is.
don't have to worry about this anymore. All the
Right.
paperwork's are done. I proved everything. I'm
Yes.
here now.
Yes,
And now
yes.
let's have the passport
Yeah, not
travel.
yes, not dreading that you're gonna be like sent out of the country or whatever. For sure, it's a big
Yeah.
weight off my shoulders. But also, I mean, um, I'm happy that I wasn't born here and I'm able to bring a new perspective given my background, very mixed background, very like diverse background, being like born in Uzbekistan, going to Russia already. So I'm a twice an immigrant actually, because I immigrated from Uzbekistan to Russia and from Russia to United States. So I have that, journey behind me, and it actually makes you older and more cynical and more tired and all that stuff.
And
But
more.
I yeah, I put it into work. you
Yeah, I'm
know,
gonna say
and
more interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
more interesting, gives you perspective, and like not living in a bubble again, like we talked about, like not being the only thing, one, like having one definition to yourself. I have a lot of stuff that I can lean back to or like pick up from, and now I'm kind of like, interested in what it is to be an American citizen. I cannot wait to vote and do all that kind of stuff that you do as an American, probably
Mm-hmm.
celebrate 4th of July next year properly.
Yeah. Yes.
Dreading the end of the world and empire crumbling as well, I guess.
Yeah, we're there too. It's all the above. All
Right.
of the above. You get the good with the bad.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Like I believe we're there.
That's great. That's great.
Thank.
I feel like it's with good writing or good movies, you have to stop before you're actually done. So
Yeah, yeah.
you happy to come back for what? Episode 75? It's
Yeah,
gonna
we'll
be,
come
this is
back for
74? 4
this
is
is
my number. I like 70. 74?
74.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and then when I'm here next time, we'll for episode 113 or 114 or something, we'll hear
No,
about
don't
the
give
latest.
yourself this much time. You should
Okay.
come back in like 3 months.
Sooner. Okay. All right. Okay,
Sooner. Come back
great.
sooner.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, last question that I like to, it's the basic one for people that want to keep in touch and follow you
Okay.
on your journey. Where do people
Well, it would be my
how do
Instagram probably. It's the best way to reach me is Instagram at Alia Azamat, AliAzamat. Pretty simple. I think Instagram is the best way, and I post a lot, and people say that I'm on top of my social media game. I dread it every time, but it's a good way to reach me and like see my work and be exposed to like kind of my side of the world for sure. Instagram.
Yeah, you do a pretty good job of engaging and stuff too, right? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just other direction. Just kidding. No, cool. All right.
Thank you
Well,
so much. I'm so
yes.
happy to do this. This was so much fun, and Phoebe is obviously enjoying it too. And she made a cameo here and there. I'm sure it's gonna be fun for people to see her.
Yes, I hope so.
I'm happy we did that.
Yes, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Bye everybody.
Bye.